All right, everybody, how we doing? What is going on? All right. Oh wait, we gotta. Why is this titled like this? Hold on. That's weird. This shouldn't have the date in this. This is really strange. Something's changed about YouTube's UI. I should be able to edit my title on the fly. The fuck is going on? Oh, you know what? Maybe they changed. Okay. Okay, I see how they kind of changed it. No, fuck. All evidence. No, I guess the title's fine. You know what? The title's fine, but they just changed the UI, so I don't really know what, why YouTube. I complained about this last stream, but I still don't understand why they've kept it like this for this stream. You know what? I'm gonna make a note for myself. Look into YouTube UI. Let's see. Look into YouTube stream UI. All right. All right. How's everybody doing? You thought this was a scripted video about Eris, lol? No, I actually don't have good ideas for Eris. So if it's a juicy vid, so I was talking with my editor about this earlier, which was like, because I was like, what if we just make the stream topic this, like this Eris stuff? And he was like, don't you want to do like that seems pretty interesting. Wouldn't you want to do maybe like an actual video on that or something like that? And I was like, if I had an idea for it, that would be the case, but I don't. So if I don't have a good video idea for it, it's like, well, then why not let's just talk about it. I really don't have thoughts about the Eris stuff, because when the I have some thoughts, but it's thoughts that are like things that people have been throwing around. I don't have any like actual theories about this, so I figured if there's no actual theories, then let's just do a fun video. Fun stream, just discussing kind of what people are thinking. It's also just, this is a more lax stream day in the sense that like, we've got a week-long break. We're not doing chapter predictions just yet. We're going to do chapter predictions on Friday. So it's a more lax stream day. So it's kind of just like, okay, well, this is the topic, but we can kind of just talk about anything and everything that's going on with One Piece at the moment, because it's like the most insane setup imaginable next chapter, but we've also talked to death a million of the different individual things that go into this, right? So like, what can the matchups be? How strong is every character? All of that. So now we're basically at the point where like we've done so much speculation. It's time for us to just wait and see. So Eris is like the one interesting thing that we could talk about. Like even just discussing like Emu's devil fruit. That was another idea that I was thinking of doing. My editor and I were thinking of doing for today's stream. And it was like, no, you know what? We're going to find out soon. We've done several videos talking about Emu's devil fruit. I feel like this is just, we're at a let's hold our breaths and find out moment in One Piece. Let me jot this down. Yeah, there we go. All right. So yeah, the Blackbeard, thanks for the 5. Big Mom has to be the unluckiest character ever. No mythical Zoan and no marriage with Lola and Loki. She really could have been king of the pirates. I don't think that either of these things would have made her king of the pirates. Big Mom is the most delusional One Piece character ever, and then that continues, except for Yamato. I guess Yamato's more delusional, but Big Mom, like, let's see. So if either of those things worked out, let's say she gives Katakuri the mythical Zoan. I don't think that changes Katakuri that much. He's definitely stronger. I think maybe he might shift to being the strongest first mate level character in One Piece, but that's not suddenly going to be like, oh my god, that means that Big Mom just beats all the other emperors or something, right? And then let's say that she got the marriage through with Lola and Loki, right? Loki is a disgraced prince of the giants. I don't know if Big Mom had that intel, but it's not like the giants would have given a shit and just like sided with her just because she's got Loki. Maybe Oda tells us different once we get to that part of the flashback, but that's what it looks like right now. And then the other part of that is just that I don't think Loki would have gone along with that shit. Like, I still don't understand. Like, Big Mom's system, it makes sense vaguely on paper, but I don't know how it applies to, like, it's like she's running old era, like, Victorian times, medieval Europe times, like, politics of, like, well, my daughter will marry your son, and then that unites the kingdoms and stuff like that. But in One Piece, it's like, it's kind of that sort of stuff, but it's also more so everyone's a fucking pirate. So just because if Lola married Loki, I don't think Loki would suddenly be like, now I need to make Big Mom Pirate King or something like that. I don't think Loki would have given a shit either. So even if, let's say, Loki wasn't a disgraced prince, let's say he was still the proud Prince Felbaf or something like that, I don't think Loki would have been like, oh, well, now I married Lola, all of Felbaf, now we're going to help fucking Big Mom take over the world or something like that. I don't think so. I mean, to be fair, Loki did have his own sort of dream since he was a kid of, like, the world, like, conquering the world, being king of the world or whatever. Destroying the world's actually what it turned into. But he was inspired by Rocks talking about conquering the world. I just don't see it working hand in hand with, like, I don't see him working hand in hand with Big Mom if he doesn't like Big Mom. Demonio, thanks to the 2. Read the Fate Stay Night visual novel. It is peak. Fuck no. No, I'm never going back into Fate stuff again. Except maybe Fate, I say that, except maybe the Fate that's coming out next, which is, Fate Strange Fake. That one seems interesting. And I've read some people say that it's, on Reddit and stuff, people saying that, like, it's kind of, it leans into the most fun aspects of Fate. Here's my thing with Fate, okay? I don't like any of the writing around anything almost at all, okay? So that's the biggest thing. I love the concept. Fate has a phenomenal concept. I wish it leaned into its concept more, and it sounds like Fate Strange Fake might do that. But I love so much about the ideas of it, right? In general, cool, how to explain this? A battle royale type format, that's always fun. The idea of the battle royale being between, like, mythical heroes of the past, like, through all sorts of mythologies and legends and everything like that, and partly real life as well, like real world history, all of that, that's really, really cool. The idea that it's set up in a rule format where everybody's fitting certain roles, like Archer, Lancer, Berserker, things like that, I think that's really, really cool. The fact that all of these mythical heroes are anime versions of themselves, right? So, like, it's like, somebody like Hercules could be fighting somebody like Jack the Ripper, but it's like a fantasy version of Jack the Ripper or whatever. I think that's really cool. So I think Fate's got so much cool shit. And then obviously the actual animation and execution of those fights is phenomenal. Where I don't care for it is everything else. The humans, I don't think I've ever liked any of the writing for any of the Fate humans ever. It makes me fall asleep. I think that what I really want to see is, like, the heroes go at it, but with, like, lots of strategy and stuff involved. I think that's what I really want to see. I don't think it lends itself to that personally. Tornado says, chill streams? No, we need to discuss agenda. Hey, I'm okay with discussing agenda here. That's kind of what I mean by chill stream, too. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Let's get, yeah, we're almost at 50. Let's stream likes up to 100. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 5. Whitebeard was just playing cat and mouse with Garp, but when it came to Emu, he definitely lived up to the reputation of not suffering one coward's wound. I don't even like going into this plot point over and over again. Garp is not... it's not, like... Being a coward isn't... It's not, like, it's spelled out in chapter 1. It's not about trying to take every single fight just for the sake of it. The idea is that, like, when you're actually presented with your enemy or, like, your goal or whatever, then you don't back down. But One Piece never suggests that, like, oh, you should just be fighting anybody for any reason whatsoever. That's literally spelled out to not be correct in chapter 1, right? Whitebeard faced Emu because there was reason to face Emu. He didn't fight Garp because there was no reason to fight Garp, right? The idea of being a coward is if you're actually presented with a spot where you are in front of your enemy, right? You're in front of your goal, and then you run or back down, that's a little bit different. But it's never suggested that, oh, any character that ever has to escape at any point in time is a coward. That's never been a thing in One Piece. Ajay, thanks for the 2. Bro, Wano cover story's over. What was the point? That was a shock to me. Because I didn't realize that Moria was going to be our big reveal. I actually was thinking that this was going to be... We didn't even talk about that this last chapter, but... the Moria thing, so... When the Moria thing came out, I actually was like, you know what? Maybe this is going to be one of the better cover stories of all time, because Oda usually saves his big reveal for the end, the climax of the whole thing. But we already got like a pretty juicy reveal right off the bat with the Moria stuff. So I was like, oh shit, that changes our perception of Moria, opens up the possibility that he can read the poneglyphs. Most likely he can. We know he's still out there. It opens up a whole new plot point. So that's cool, right? So I was like, damn, what's Oda saving for the conclusion of this cover story? Turned out that Moria was, that was it. That was the juiciest thing that we got. That was actually wild. This may be up there for worst cover stories of all time. I think it might be up there for worst cover stories. I could make a quick list. Do a quick list on worst cover stories. Here, let's see. Tier maker. Let me make a quick ranking of cover stories off the top for you guys. I've done a whole cover stories tier list before, so it's not worth doing it again. But One Piece cover stories. Yeah, that was actually a mind-blowing cover story. It also strongly makes me feel like it's a really mind-blowing cover story for me too, because it feels like a victory lap. I feel like there's probably a large gap between how Oda likes Wano versus how a lot of readers feel about Wano. Because what Yamato's cover story, when there's no plot point at the end, like there's no big reveal at the end, then basically what Yamato's cover story is, it's basically like a victory lap of like the Wano arc. Does that make sense? It's just like, let's take us back through Wano and just revisit all those fond memories and see what a great, like, just revisit all the side characters from that, right? And just, like, really pat ourselves on the back for, like, a story well told. And, of course, readers would love 25 chapters of, you know, revisiting all of the familiar faces of Wano. Here's the thing with Wano, which is that, like, let's say, because I know that my opinion doesn't speak for everybody on Wano, but I do know that a lot of readers have mixed feelings on Wano, or negative feelings of Wano, and I know that a lot of readers do like the Wano arc, but from readers that I know who like the Wano arc, even amongst the batch of readers, like, to begin with, Wano is a very mixed bag for a lot of readers, right? So some people hate it, some people in the middle, but not necessarily, like, love or dislike, right? And then you've got your batch of Wano lovers. But even the people that love Wano, I feel like for the most part, they love Wano for stuff that has very little to do with the Wano characters. It's more so, you know, when you hear people talk about, like, why they love Wano, they'll say, like, Luffy Gear 5th, or, like, Zoro versus King, or, like, Kid-in-Law versus Big Mom and shit like that. Like, or, like, Roger laughed or something like that, you know? Like, there's a lot of things that'll be referenced before they get to stuff like, the 9 red scabbards that the entire arc was fucking about. You know, like, that's kind of the case. So that's the funny thing for me, which is that, like, one, this cover story is basically just like a giant victory lap, patting oneself on the back for, like, the Wano arc, and, like, let's just take a nice, long, pointless tour through this story again and just be like, Wano, what a fucking masterpiece, right? It's also one of the reasons I hate the last chapter of Wano, because I've never seen Oda do a final chapter of an arc that's basically Oda literally sucking himself off for the plot of the arc itself. It's really weird. Like, literally the final chapter of Wano is a play happening in Wano, gassing up how crazy cool the story of Wano was. And I'm like, the fuck is this? This is like in-story propaganda for the story? What is this? Anyway, it feels like the cover story is that part too, because it's just a fucking pointless cover story. It's just to go through, and I'm allowed to speak here because you guys know, anybody who's been following, every time I've been asked about the cover story so far, I've been like, I'm just going to wait and see. I'm not going to critique the cover story because we don't know where it goes, and I'm giving Oda the benefit of the doubt. So I gave the benefit of the doubt for like 30 chapters, right? So I was just like, I literally did not say anything negative about the cover story other than I'm not feeling it, but I'm still going to wait to see where it goes because this is common for cover stories. But now we're done with it. So now I'm allowed to talk. It's literally like 20, 30 chapters of just going through Wano and just being like, Wano, another familiar side character that we all know and love. These other side characters from Wano that we know and love. Like, look at all these great, fantastic, fully formed, powerfully written Wano characters that we're all just touching base with one after the other, right? That is wild to me because this cover story is good for nobody. As I said, a lot of people disliked Wano, a lot of people had mixed feelings, but then even that percentage of readers who do love Wano, they don't generally love Wano for all of these characters that we're like revisiting. So it's just like, who is this for? Who's this cover story for? I guess if you're a really big Yamato fan, that's the only way that you might like this cover story. If you're a really, really big Yamato fan, you might just be like, okay, this is, I just like seeing Yamato, right? And that's fair, and we know that Yamato has her fan base, but there's also, even if that's the case, it's just like the other times that we've had cover stories that cover just one character, like Ace or Jinbei or something, like going through their own little adventure. Usually those have some sort of significant development at the end, like Ace finding the message to, or the clue for Blackbeard, Jinbei and the poneglyph and everything like that. Yeah. I think if you go back to One Piece's earlier cover stories, right? If you go back to One Piece's earlier cover stories, that would be some cover stories where like sometimes nothing would happen, where it'd be like literally fucking Django and Full Body or something, like dancing on Mirror Ball Island or some shit. So you can go back in time to a point where nothing happened in cover stories, but things have also generally advanced to a point where it's like, okay, now we kind of have a higher standard for what we kind of hope we're getting out of these. Is this all the cover stories? No, I don't actually see a thing that has a good tier list for all cover stories. How many cover stories do we have in One Piece? Yeah, I'm not going to do a whole tier list right now because it's hard for me to find a solid One Piece cover story tier list. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. JWP, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 34 months, man. Hey, Morge, was watching a VOD from when the Runbeard allegations were wild. You mentioned conquerors don't literally always fight. I raise you Captain Kid, lol. Maybe he was the true conqueror all along. Kid does always fight. It's still, like, the potential is still, I don't want to speak too much on Kid, but there is still the potential of him emerging into the story as a significant player. He is technically only one big hockey bloom away from getting to top level, because if you think about it, like, I think most people have Kid at roughly, like, post Big Mom fight, most people are like, Kid is probably, like, at least first mate level or something. Let's say Kid's, like, first mate level, okay? So essentially, I think most people would agree that Kid, at the end of the Big Mom fight, they would compare him to, like, Luffy, like, where Luffy was after Act 1 or after Act 2, you know? Either Luffy post Whole Cake or Luffy Act 2, like Roof Luffy or something like that. I think a lot of people would have Kid there, right? And all that it took for Luffy to go from that level to, like, Yonko level was then him getting Advanced Conqueror's Haki, right? So if Luffy made the jump from basically, like, first mate or first mate plus to Yonko level or whatever, once you got Advanced Conqueror's Haki, then Kid's technically in the same spot, you know? I also don't like the whole running discussion, because I feel like the running discussion turns into, like, running versus Conqueror's Haki. It turns into, like, people deliberately trying to miss the point of the ideas that Oda's getting at, to instead turn into, like, more of, like, a technical legalistic argument, which is like, well, technically this character is not fighting right here, or like, not turning around to go back to fight here or something like that. Technically, like, it becomes more of like a gotcha thing instead of trying to engage with the ideas and taking into account, like, what is symbolically being shown in certain scenes, you know? Because it's like, you will find pretty much every character having to flee a situation at some point, but that's not the same as the idea of like what constitutes a coward's retreat or like marks on a back being a swordsman's shame, those sort of things, right? Like there's a difference between moments where characters have a choice to basically fight the enemy in front of them or run, that are actually meaningful. And I think that's where people are kind of skipping the messaging, which is like every character in One Piece at some point or another, it's just going to be less convenient to stand and fight than just go, right? That doesn't discount the messaging Oda's trying to get at with like what a wound on a back means. So I'm tired of trying to relitigate that discussion over and over. Maybe at some point when we get another Conqueror's Haki user revealed or something, I'll drop a video breaking down like fully with all context and all little counter examples that people want to bring up, like fully what the idea is behind characters, what it means to have Conqueror's Haki or not have Conqueror's Haki. But at this point, it's just it gets too in the weeds. Rihanna Zara, thanks for the 5. Hot take: historic Oda fumble not having Blackbeard invade Wano for Pluton in the cover story, or set that up at least. I'm a better writer. Yes, I'm a better writer than Oda, says Rihanna Zara. I think doing it in a cover story wouldn't be dramatic, but I agree that setting up at least would be cool. Like just having some character notice out there that, oh shit, there's a ship approaching. But I do think that that's coming. I think that doing it in a cover story wouldn't be that exciting, personally. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. Grizzly Adams, what's up, man? Thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 25 months. If we were to get a callback to the NLC and at the end of chapter 273 next chapter and or later in the final war, who do you think would represent who? Example, Wiper equals Rocks equals Dragon. What? Let's see. Hold on. Oh, everybody standing to face... I see what you're saying. Everyone standing to face NL, right? I don't think it'll be like a one-to-one sort of thing, because I've actually thought about that multiple times. I'm like, what if that scene is meant to be redone in a sense for the finale of the story, you know? Like, what if... it's going to be a set of characters standing to fight Emu. So I've thought about that. I think that once we start going down that route of trying to like pigeonhole too many parallels in there, I think that we risk like getting away from... Like Oda does like his parallels, of course, but I don't think it'll be so exact and on the mark that we need to look for the same batch of... mirror image characters, you know? Because it's like, well, who the fuck represents Nico Robin, you know? Who represents Gonfall? In the modern day, I don't know who would represent Gonfall. I have no idea. Let me make a little note for myself. Okay. Oh, wait. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to get into all the Conqueror's Haki stuff. Tiptio Treviso says, I think the Muro better represents Blackbeard with Emu's power than Emu himself. I think it's very possible. So with what... I think I've said this multiple times before that I'm like, oh, I think that this determines who the final villain is. This determines who the final villain is. I feel like with the way God Valley goes down, I think that will give me the biggest insight into who the final villain is maybe supposed to be. I think the framing of God Valley will make a lot of sense. I have a new... Because I think with the finale of One Piece, to me, a lot of the matchups fall into place pretty neatly. And I think that the thing that's missing, or the thing that feels a little bit complicated to me, that doesn't quite neatly fit, is basically Blackbeard and Emu. They both need to go down, but the question is what order? We know that Luffy takes out Blackbeard. It's unknown yet if Luffy takes out Emu. And then if Luffy is defeating Emu, I think Emu's last. If Luffy doesn't defeat Emu, then I think Emu goes down in a team fight first. And then Blackbeard comes away with the fruit. And then Luffy fights Blackbeard last. So I think that's kind of what I'm feeling makes sense at the moment. And the specifics of what that looks like is a little bit complicated breakdown. So I want to wait till the end of God Valley, and then maybe I'll drop my full-on theory video on the climax of One Piece. Rihanna Star, thanks for the 5. I would kill for a Zoe-length arc after Elbaf, just focused on the Blackbeard parts invading Wano for Pluton, like the My Villain Academia arc from My Hero. That was a good arc. I watched that in the anime. My Hero's in its final season, right? How's that going? Is that going good? What was I thinking? Blackbeard Pirates invading Pluton? I mean, realistically, it's going to be like 2 chapters. It's not going to be a Zoe type thing. Because how much can they even show from the invasion? Like, even Garp invading Hachinosu was, I want to say, like 4 chapters total. Maybe 3 chapters total, because some of them are half chapters also. And that was at least a situation where there's like a lot of matchups and specific fights that can happen and everything. Whereas like Blackbeard Pirates invading Wano, I feel like Wano just gets rolled, right? What do they do? You got Yamato, who I think can put up just as good, if not better, of a fight than Law. But Blackbeard might be rolling up with like a bigger force. Actually, yeah, Wano's better fortified than the Law Pirates were. Actually, yeah. It wouldn't. The more I think about it, I was just like, wouldn't Wano just get rolled over? But I was just like, no, I think the Blackbeard Pirates would have like a solid fight on their hands. Because the Scabbards are, if you add them all up together, right? Like Inuarashi, Nekomamushi, Denjiro, they're not bad. Like there's characters that are, Yonko, like flirting with Yonko commander level. Inuarashi and Nekomamushi are Yonko commander level under the full moon, for sure. And then you got obviously Yamato, right? And Yamato's a big problem. Let's say Yamato gives Blackbeard as much of a fight as Law, if not more. And then yeah, you just got a lot of characters that are like, the thing is that the Blackbeard Pirates are not as strong as a traditional Yonko crew. I'm convinced of that. I don't think they're as strong as a traditional Yonko crew. So it's like, I think that they would have trouble. I think they would have more trouble. That's not shade at Law. Yamato is doing well against Kaido for a while. And Ranami says, remembering that Moore just keeping up with My Hero just through his friend just putting on the anime when they hang out is always a funny reminder. Law. Yeah, that's basically my experience with My Hero. But we haven't watched My Hero in a long time. Because I think the last thing that he showed me was basically you guys don't care about My Hero spoilers at this point, right? The last thing that he showed me was Shigaraki basically awakening his abilities, and it was like a big team fight against Shigaraki in like this city that had fallen apart. And I thought it was actually really good in the anime. I thought it was like kind of crazy. But that's when I found out that the My Hero manga fandom was very critical of the anime. Because I thought that whole little anime arc where everyone's trying to fight Shigaraki was wild. And I was like, this is some of the coolest shit. But then it turns out that the My Hero manga fandom was complaining about it because they were like, the sky is too blue or something like that. And I was like, I guess that makes sense if you're like, maybe if you're a manga reader and like a certain atmosphere was established or something in the manga and so you had different expectations, then that makes sense. But watching the anime, I felt plenty of like tension and stakes and everything like that. Like I felt like they're under fire in that battle. I didn't think for one moment like, the sky needs to be like some other fucking color or something like that. So I think sometimes this goes for any adaptation, but sometimes like fans of the original can be overly critical of the adaptation because in their mind certain key things are missing that they don't realize are not actively hurting the experience of people who are just watching the adaptation blind, because those people are just taking it as it is and not really processing that something is missing, or like the feeling that something is not they don't have a certain standard to compare it to. I think that goes for like the One Piece live action as well. I remember when the live action came out, a lot of people were complaining about the adaptation not having this or that, or like, they completely skipped Don Krieg versus Luffy. It's like, if you're fucking watching this for the first time, you don't give a shit that some fight between Luffy and Don Krieg is missing. You're more excited to get to Luffy versus Arlong. Like, there's certain things that it's just, if you're a fan of the original, you're like, they need to get this, otherwise it's just not the right experience or whatever. But it's like, No, it can be a good adaptation as is, and sometimes like ignorance is bliss, you know. Anyway, I thought that the last stuff I saw in My Hero was good. Thought that was good. My Villain Academia, that was also good. Yeah, but I don't think the Blackbeard Pirates, I don't need a mini arc for them for that. Yeah. People really complained about the blue skies. I just remember that. I was like, oh, Aokiji plus Blackbeard does cook them though. Yeah, if we bring them all, if everybody groups up together. But the thing is that if you're an emperor, I feel like usually, well, no, the red-haired pirates travel wherever they want to travel. I was just gonna say that usually emperors don't take their whole entourage everywhere they go because it leaves things unprotected. But I guess it's fine. Um, Ajay, thanks for the two. Is One Piece slash Luffy political? Been a lot of dispute online. It strongly depends on what. I think it's strongly like. It depends on what. So it really does depend. Like, I want to phrase this in a good way. It does depend on how far people are going to try to go to specifically say that like this conflict in One Piece is meant to be an exact allegory or symbolism or whatever the fuck for like this specific nation versus nation or regime versus regime thing in the real world. I think you can take a lot of One Piece ideas and apply it because One Piece is not a politically complex story. Let's say that. It really is a fantasy kids version of including politics in a story. In that One Piece's general idea is freedom and kindness and treat people good, you know, stuff like that. And I've seen people argue that, well, One Piece argues for socialism or whatever because, like, it argues that everybody should share and everything. But then it's like, okay, well, One Piece also has kings, so does it advocate for a monarchy? If you want to go to One Piece for, like, actually in-depth political messaging, it's stupid. Because in reality, all One Piece is trying to do is it tries to present what ideal societies, in theory, should look like, but it goes about it in a very magical sort of way, in the sense that, like, once the bad guys are defeated, and then the concept is just put the good king in charge. And the good king is in charge, bad guys defeated, good king in charge. Everybody's free, so there's not oppressive stuff. There's obviously still law enforcement, though, so that's still a thing. And there's still businesses and stuff like that, but everybody has enough food and everything as they need, and that's the idea. And it's just presenting a really fucking good society each time. And One Piece is very easy at pointing out things that are wrong, like obviously trying to hide the truth. That's a big thing in One Piece. Hiding the truth is like its probably biggest message in terms that you want to use to point at like real world societies. Like you can see how focused One Piece is on like the idea that the truth should be out, transparency, all of that. But beyond that, it's mostly just like good human values that then it doesn't really try to get into any sort of complex messaging as to where a government should be or something like that. Yeah, it really doesn't do that. It just doesn't. It just tries to paint like what a good society should look like, I guess. But it's more so from a fairy tale perspective. Like, and then everybody was just lived happily ever after. And it's not interested in getting into the nitty gritty of like, what are the actual mechanisms that make this society work well or whatever. The most basic mechanisms are like society needs a good king, so just have a good king in charge. The king shouldn't be oppressive of the people, and it's important that this is probably the most consistent one, which is like it's important that everybody has as much as they need for food, resources, and stuff like that. So I think that's the biggest one that people can latch onto and be like, oh, One Piece is socialist, but then ignore all of the other stuff that doesn't get into that. I think it's more so just Oda's fairy tale way of like everyone being happy, you know, because anybody that imagines a good society should probably imagine, you know, everyone having as much as they want to eat. Demonius says One Piece is as political as Star Wars. Yeah. it has how to say this? It obviously has political themes, but it's broad themes, like broad ideas of like this value seems good, this value seems good, this value makes people happy. It's more value based political messaging. Um, and then I view like political messaging as like stories that actually get into the nitty gritty of like uh more specific ideas, because like I'm not somebody that j- I'm not somebody that's like all art is political, because I think that that's something that only very annoying people say, because it's just like, what's the politics of like Pac-Man, right? Any political messaging that you're applying to Pac-Man, it's it's just you applying it, right? It's not author's intent. And I'm only interested in author's intent because that's what actual analysis is. You're trying to figure out what the author intended, right? The creator of Pac-Man had no political messaging in mind when they created Pac-Man, right? Anything that you ascribe to Pac-Man is just in your own head. You're like, oh, well, this fucking yellow thing is eating all the pellets and blah, 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 blah. That symbolizes this or that. That's not the case, right? So One Piece obviously has much more applicable real-world messaging than something like Pac-Man, but it's not trying to be a political story. It's trying to be a story that puts out ideas as to what it's more universal as to like what is right for the human experience, what are the right values that societies and everything should be based on, which I think is like the foundation that then turns into political messaging, because I consider political messaging to be about specifics, like specific systems, specific, like if One Piece was going about like this type of government is correct or something like that, or this or that, I don't think anybody thinks that One Piece is actually saying that we should live under monarchies, right? So instead, it's more so value-based shit, freedom, equality, right? Freedom, equality, people having, yada, yada, like as many resources, all of that. It's more broad values, but I don't think it's getting into the messaging of like, when this is why governments or society should be constructed in this or that way, Anyway. Palace intrigue is a bit overplayed at this point, whether it's Game of Thrones or historical dramas. I mean, I think Game of Thrones deserves props for like making palace intrigue type stuff like really, really mainstream. Game of Thrones has more like overt political messaging in that it does try to tackle like what system of government is best at different points. I don't know how much the books do that, but the shows bring that up more. Yeah. One Piece is anti-oppression, yeah. One Piece does represent democracy, kinda. I mean, there are very, very few villages that Luffy frees that end up as democracies. We just spent like 150 chapters freeing Wano to put a shogun in charge, right? I don't know. King AP07 says, is there a democratic country in One Piece? So funnily enough, the world government is supposed to be democratic. So that's the cool thing. And I think that is ultimately what the world will shift to after the Celestial Dragons are taken down. Because there's a cool visual, like, so everyone remembers the empty throne chapter, but like the one where Emu sits down on the throne, but I think a lot of people ignore the direct contrast that Oda shows. So first, Oda's showing, like, the entire reverie is about showing the contrast between, like, what the world is supposed to function like versus what it actually functions like, right? So, like, it opens with all of these kings and nobility arriving there and seemingly like everyone's going to work together, but it's showing that, okay, underneath the ground, there's slaves laboring and everything like that underneath this empire, yada, yada, right? And then everything leads up to the meeting of all of the kings at this big round table, right? So the same chapter that it's shown all of the kings uniting to sit down and discuss the events of the world at the round table in a fair and, equitable way, right? Right after that scene is the throne scene where it cuts to Emu going to sit down on the big empty throne. So basically the symbolism is just that, like, while on the surface above, that's what the world government is supposed to function like, right? Like a big democracy, like a round table sort of system. In actuality, that's just a sham that's being presented on the surface. They don't even know that they're just, puppets, figureheads, or whatever. They don't know that the real strings are being pulled by one dude who's sitting on the throne and basically commanding the entire world. So it's the idea that democracy on the surface is what it's supposed to be, but in actuality, dictatorship, right? Water 7. Good point. Water 7's got democracy. Yeah, that's just the funny thing that I think about, like, with so many people. Like, people really want to grab One Piece and be like, this One Piece's politics explain why this or this is correct and stuff. Like, if you buy that hard into One Piece's politics, then you literally think that we should have monarchies. That's literally what it is. I don't think Oda's trying to present. He has no concept of what, like, the perfect sort of government is. It's just like, his concept is just like a good king. That's basically what we need. If we just had a good king in charge, then it's good. Because he's not trying to do that, and I think it's just silly to try to get to, like over-examine One Piece as, like, a political story, because it's like, if you do that, then, like, a lot of it is doesn't really hold up that well, right? One Piece is better for ideas, like, just general value, like, general good human values that every society should have at their core, but not in terms of policy. Like, One Piece doesn't get into that shit, Demoni says, I think this whole convo is because of Hassan on the Trash Taste podcast, lol. I mean, I don't know what Hassan said. Can I get... I want a question. I have a question, okay? I don't know if this is correct to bring up or not. But did Hassan actually do the shock collar on his dog stuff? Or is that just, like... Is that just people on Twitter hating? Like, like, or making stuff up, Is that real or not? Because I saw that come out, and, like, it felt like it just blew up. And I was like, oh shit, is he shocking his dog? But then the next day there was posts about, like, okay, it's not actually a shock collar, it's something else. It's like some other type of collar or something. And I was like, okay, he didn't do that. That's good. And then after that, it was like, no, that was a lie. He did actually have a shock collar, and he's just hiding it. I thought you guys would... Oh, Eric, I'll get back to you after stream. I should be able to do this weekend, man. Bubble Bass is my favorite person in chat right now. Because Bubble Bass's response was just who. And everybody else here seems to know him. How is that? Isn't that crazy? I didn't even know that Hassan was that known. Imagine says it's more about criticizing bad governments than proposing good ones, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a simple way to do it. I mean, that's a simple way to explain it. The only thing about One Piece is that it's like it prefers simple. It prefers simple, clear. Like, it's not going to get into some very complex ideas with that. It's more. I always feel that One Piece is more feelings based than anything else. It's meant to appeal to your emotions very strongly, right? So it paints like a really bad type of government, and then where everyone suffers, and then bad guys get defeated, and now land is happily ever after. It just wants the happily ever after and wants to deliver it in a good way. Henchme976 says Hassan and a Mord stream. This truly is a legendary crossover. Okay, so no, he didn't. Oh, my bad. Then he did it. No idea. Covered it up. I don't know, bro. Very high chance he did. Free Kai, he didn't. I think this is like, it's likely that he did, not 100% proven. He did not actually shock the dog, but he has a vibration collar and is training her. Okay. Depends who you ask, lol. That's frustrating, because it's, I kind of just want to know. So I can... I guess everybody wants to know, but I don't want to, like, I don't want to just be on jumping to conclusions without actually getting a clearer idea. 70 to 80% sure he did. I don't know. Gino Alabachi says people have tested the collar. It's not a shock collar. Do a poll, says King AP07, but the problem is that the poll is just going to be like, do you like Hassan or not? Abu Williams says, who is Hassan? Yeah. Was off screen, nobody knows. Hassan is that streamer, right? Yeah. What's a vibration caller? Mr. Raindrop says I know about him against my will. Henchman 976 says Hassan is pretty well known. Yeah, but I thought he might be well known in the sense that like I guess well known, but I thought well known in the sense that like a percentage of people in the stream, like I could say that name and I would imagine that a percentage of people would know him, you know? But I did not expect that, like, it seems like maybe the majority of people on stream know him. And not just know him, but know of this specific controversy as well, you know? Slogmo says there's very strong human rights messaging. Yeah, I agree. Bismuth says he's trying to train the dog to stay in one spot for 8 hours, which is low-key pretty bad. That is really, really bad. Because I think that's as bad as using a shock collar, period. But because dogs are not meant to, they're not like that, you know. But is he using a shock collar for it though? Carnage, thanks for 2. Is that Zebek's sword in the flower room? Yeah, people have been pointing that out. I think that's like, that does seem very, very likely. And people pointed out that, like, Zebek's sword, the hat, like, maybe Emu just likes the photo. Emu just has a collection of things. And, you know, when you've been alive for, like, 800 years, 900 years or whatever, then, yeah, you probably want to keep some mementos. Yeah, I don't think you're forcing a dog to, especially because it's, like, a bigger dog. If it's like a little chihuahua, then it's like, maybe. No, I don't know why that makes it any different, but I don't know. I guess I'm like, they just take up less space. I don't know. Okay. Rain Iwakura, thanks for the 10. Oh, shit. Okay, hold on. We're getting some context. He did not shock the dog, at least provably so. People post proofs using doctored images. It comes from the same community that hates him, Destiny fans that own subreddit live stream fails. Okay. People post proof using doctored images. Okay. I will roll with that, I guess. At least provably so. He didn't shock the dog. Okay, I don't know about at least provably so, but we leave it. All right, we leave it. We move on. It's not a big deal. Brim says, do your own research, Morge. I wouldn't ask chat. But the thing is, like, I'm not going to take the time to do. I saw the clip when it first came up. I don't know what shocking a dog looks like. So my dumbass thought that, like, the dog would fucking vibrate or some shit. It's like, the dog didn't vibrate, but clearly something bothered it, right? And I watched the clip. People were saying it's a shock collar. I was like, people seem to be more experts on this than me. I guess it's a shock collar. Then later on, something was posted that it's like a vibration collar or something. So I was like, okay, I guess it's a vibration collar. Then people are saying, no, it's not, because of some images inaccuracy or something. So now I'm just like, all right, well, I don't know what I kind of want other people to just tell me what the correct thing is, because I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of getting all the answers for this. Damani says Morge will agree with whoever pays him the most. I want information, but you know, I'm not like, I have nothing specific to argue for or against. I kind of just want a breakdown of it, because I don't really know. Obviously, I'm against the shock collar part, but I'm like, did it happen or not? I don't know. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the... Oh, wait one sec. King AP07 says more just time is more valuable. It's more so in the sense that, like, I don't think I ever... I think I don't go down rabbit holes of, like, trying to figure out... I'll go down rabbit holes of, like, oh, this person did this terrible thing. If I can, like, see a series of... Or, like, like a little video breakdown or like a quick breakdown of like what they did, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But I don't go down rabbit holes of like, I think this person did something really bad, so now I'm gonna go put all the pieces together to try and figure out if they did something bad. I don't have the energy for that sort of thing, you know? Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 10. Between Garp putting Bart and maybe Wano, Oda's setting up an interconnected conflict between 3 out of 4 Yonko. Garp putting Bart and maybe Wano. What do you think will get Cross-Guild involved? Only faction Blackbeard hasn't picked a fight with. So, again, I put out a video. That's a good question, man. I put out a video at the start of 2025 talking about, like, the big conflicts that I predicted were coming for 2025. I do feel like Luffy Shanks, there's going to be something there. I think Blackbeard Pirates and potentially Wano's a thing, but also potentially Revolutionaries is a thing. Because I think Blackbeard Pirates will interfere with whatever the Revolutionaries are doing at Marishwa. And then I think Cross Guild is going to be more focused on the Marines. And I think Cross Guild Marines have been set up. So I think these are all conflicts that will happen as sort of lead in to the final war. But I think the final war will kind of merge a lot of those things together to turn it more so into, generally speaking, everyone against the world government. And then to some degree, everyone against the, like, characters against the Blackbeard Pirates and some characters against the Marines. So I think it's... yeah, I think some of the conflict setups that we're getting right now are going to be more temporary in nature. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Like, we'll get some skirmish or some battles out of them, but they won't turn into huge wars or anything. Yeah, let's get the stream likes up to 150. JWP, thanks for the 5. More, did you play Dark Souls 1? I love Dark Souls 1. I'm playing Dark Souls 1 and have been stuck in the Tomb of the Giants for 4 hours. Why the hell is it literally pitch black? LMFAO. Tomb of the Giants is... It's the worst level I think I've played out of any of the Souls games that I've played. Played 4. I'm really excited to play it. I feel it. I'm gonna play Elden Ring soon. But I think Tomb of the Giants is the worst level out of any of those. Reason being, yeah, obviously it's just dark as fuck. I think that I love Dark Souls 1. I love it so much. I genuinely feel like the first half of Dark Souls 1, I played Sekiro, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 1, okay? Dark Souls 1 is my least favorite out of those 4 games, but that's just because the other games are so good. It's not like a bad... Like, it's just because Dark Souls 1's second half, for example, Tomb of the Giants, is just... It has some huge, glaring bad sections, okay? But I truly feel that the first half of Dark Souls 1, everything up through Anor Londo, I think that's the best... I think I put that at, like, if I could just rank that, I think that whole stretch of, like, gameplay is just the best that I've played from the Souls series, I think. It's just so fucking carefully, like, I feel like Dark Souls 1's become underrated almost over time because, like, one, I think the atmosphere is amazing. Atmosphere, none of the other games have an atmosphere like it. Dark Souls 1 is the only one that truly feels like like Dark Souls 3 feels like a dying world in the sense that everything is like big and dramatic and like Lord of the Rings apocalypse type or whatever. And Bloodborne feels like the end because like everybody's a fucking zombie and running around. But Dark Souls 1 is just quiet and silent and just like it feels hollow. It's got such a special feel to it. It feels like you're walking through this sort of like silent, empty world that's just fading away. It's really, really beautiful. The atmosphere is amazing. And the levels are just so much better than anything else in the series. I feel like the series got lazier with levels as things went on. Central Yharnam is probably the better than any Dark Souls 1 level, but aside from that, I feel like Dark Souls 1 just has such unique, like it feels like there's just so much thought put into the way everything connects in Dark Souls 1. Like it's just so meticulously, insanely well planned. And people talk about the enemy placement, but it really is a thing in that, like, the other Souls games, you can just run. There's a lot of times where there's, like, a set of enemies or whatever, and it's for show. It's just, like, obstacles that you're meant to run past. Dark Souls 1, it just feels so tight. Like, it feels like every minute of your gameplay is very, very carefully thought out, that you have to figure out this, and then this, and then get past this guy, and you're not going to be able to run past these guys, so you have to figure out how to take them down one by one. It's just so ridiculously well structured that I'm like, you know what? It makes sense, because you probably can't sustain that for a full game, so that's why they ran out of time, and the second half of the game is so bad. But Tomb of the Giants is an example, because I think that like in the second half of the game, they were tight for time, so instead of like trying to hit all of the crazy level design ideas and stick to that standard, I think they were just like, we'll just do easy gimmicks, right? So like they're like, New Londo. Okay, what if there's just fucking ghosts everywhere, so you're always having to run from ghosts, right? I actually like New Londo, but it's I think the only strong one out of the second half. But still, it's like a wild sort of gimmick, right? And then you got like Tomb of the Giants. Okay, what if everything's just dark? Seath's shit, which is just like, okay, it's just a bunch of bookshelves moving and everything like that, and then you're walking on like invisible. You have to figure out the invisible pathways and things, right? So I think that you can kind of feel that like to replace really meticulous level design, they kind of went with just difficult gimmicks to artificially inflate the playtime. Big DeBoss, thanks for the 2. Emu possesses Gunko and she turns into her youth self. Oh, that'd be crazy. Her actual original self? Yeah, I'm really interested in the Gunko route now, because now we know that Gunko isn't the way she is just because she's been forced to turn into like Emu's like puppet. Everyone can apparently be Emu's puppet, you know? So there's more going on with Gunko that we don't know. Big DeBoss, thanks for the 2. With long hair due to immortal surgery done on Emu. What? Now I don't understand. Talented Black says, I kind of hope that Emu's design is like an ancient tribal design. I think it's funny that like we're this deep and Emu's still a silhouette, and Emu just like appeared in this chapter. Like he is there. He has arrived and he's still a silhouette. And nobody even comments on it. Nobody's even like, man, how is Oda still keeping Emu a silhouette? Emu has been silhouetted for so long that it's kind of just like, okay, I guess we're just used to Emu just looking like this. Do you guys think we'll get Emu's full design next chapter? Let me do a little poll. Will we get Emu's design next chapter? Oh, Carnage just asked, do we get an Emu face reveal before God Valley ends? I mean, I guess next chapter tells us, because Emu's right there, right? Emu's there fighting them. So if Oda doesn't reveal his face right here, then that means that Oda's just going to write Emu as a shadow for the rest of this God Valley flashback, right? No. Damn. All right. So Emu just remains. So then when do we get it, though? Because it's clear now that like normally when characters are silhouettes, it's because we don't get they're being hidden from us, right? Like they're being kept in shadow or mystery, like, you know, like Green Bull's silhouette or whatever. But this would be the first time that a character is like physically in front of us, right? Just fighting us, like fighting the heroes, and they're still a silhouette. I don't think that's ever happened before. Even in the previous scene with Sabo and the Gorosei and Emu in the throne room, I think that was like Emu was there, but you could argue that it's still being. You could make the argument as to why Oda's still keeping that in shadow or whatever, but this is different because it's like actually Emu's going to be interacting, you know? I don't think we've ever seen characters like that are actually like trading blows, one of them be in shadow. Okay. Cool Fugle, thanks for the 5. That's a funny name. Rox finally won me over to Blackbeard as the final villain. I want Blackbeard to team up with Luffy to take down Emu so Rox's legacy can succeed. Yeah, it's funny because like I think we're heading towards. Now I really wonder. I'm like, are we just gonna get Naruto and Sasuke versus Kaguya, and then Naruto versus Sasuke as the One Piece finale too? Because I don't like that. I really do. That's not my thing. Like to me, that's not. I don't find that type of storytelling dramatic. I much prefer escalating challenge. So I prefer the final villain being last. But with Naruto and Sasuke, I can, even though I didn't like I think Naruto and Sasuke versus Madara as a team, and then Naruto versus Sasuke would have been good. I view Naruto as the exception because I think Naruto's entire story was really like a two protagonist type of story, and it was really about telling the stories of both Naruto and Sasuke side by side, right? Obviously Naruto a bit more, but like the story was so built around these two parallel paths, light path, good path, like dark path or whatever, side by side, and then bringing them together. I think that worked for that. I think Kaguya was the problem, but the concept of them teaming up to fight one big boss before then fighting each other, I think that concept was a fine concept. They should have just stuck with it with Madara instead of switching it to Kaguya, right? But the concept of big team up against big final villain and then two characters fight each other, I think Naruto and Sasuke did that well. I think Naruto did that well, okay? I don't think that's the case for One Piece. Like, I really don't think that's the case. Like, that just feels weird to me. Like, in pretty much any other series, you want to see things lead up to the biggest battle against the final big boss villain, right? So either make Blackbeard the final big boss villain bigger than Emu, or then just have Luffy defeat Emu after Blackbeard. I don't like the idea whatsoever of like Luffy and Blackbeard hold hands, team up against Emu, and then we get Luffy versus Blackbeard. I really don't like that personally. I could see it happening, but I think that that's a very specific style of storytelling that like it can work to some degree in a series like Naruto, which is built around that, but I don't like that as an idea for like just any other story. Carnage, thanks for the 5. Bit strange that Kaido and Whitebeard never mention the confrontation with Emu. Either they get pulled away from the fight or memories are altered. You could argue there's not a clear window for them to mention it, but like I feel like Kaido, it should have come up at some point. Like, what is he prepping for them to fight and everything? Him and Big Mom announced like a big team up to get the ancient weapons and then defeat the world government and stuff. Like, it would be nice for them for like him to hint at something like that, you know? Because with Whitebeard, I can understand. Oda didn't want to reveal Emu at that point, but during Kaido's time in Wano, that was the thing. Like, Emu had been revealed, you know? Yeah, Carnage. I don't think we get an. I'd like to think we get a face reveal, but I don't know. Eric says, me and my friends were so mad when Zetsu one-shots Madara. It's still baffling, because again, I went back to re-look at some Naruto stuff and rewatch some episodes. This was like a couple weeks back, and it really is strange, because it's like, it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense why. Like, the setup was so good. Everyone already loved Madara as a villain. It just genuinely is baffling, and I saw some people say that, oh, it's because Kishimoto made Madara too strong, so he needed to find an answer. It's like, that's fucking stupid, because you can just scale up your protagonist to be however strong you need to defeat the villain. And like Naruto and Sasuke they actually were kicking Madara's ass. Then Madara had to he had to swap eyes with Obito or something, like as a last ditch thing. And then that kind of sort of got him the advantage back, but like it was unsure which way the fight would go, right? And then he starts the Infinite Tsukiyomi, and then you want to see the fight continue, but then he gets swapped out for Kaguya, who's even stronger than Madara. So the excuse that, well, Madara is just too strong doesn't fucking make sense, because he gets replaced by someone stronger. And they do a ceiling route to stop him, but you can just, like, you can write the story however you want, you know? Like, there's already so much shit that doesn't make any fucking sense in Naruto. He can write the story however he wants. He could have them fucking seal Madara with the same tactic. NeoX7 says, my suspicion is that the revolutionaries are attacking Mauritia with the intent of revealing Emu to the world. We will see Emu's face when Dragon and the Revs expose him. That would be cool. It would be a brand new plan, though, because they just found out about Emu, like, a week ago. Yeah, I know Kishimoto never said that, but I saw some readers claiming that. They're like, well, Kishimoto had to do it because he probably made Madara too strong. It's like, but he introduced a character that's stronger. And the fight actually felt, the fight between Naruto and Sasuke versus Madara actually felt like, oh, this will be, it felt like it was going to be on somewhat even footing. And it was like interesting to see which ways it would go. But then them versus Kaguya, it felt like Kaguya is just too strong. And then they need the seal thing, and I don't know. Carnage, thanks for the 5-man. Some people have said that Emu is a shadow now and will get his human form during the Void Century. Also pretty sure Blackbeard has his own plan with Davy Jones. It's true that the Davy Jones shit is a big deal. Also, oh shit, I forgot to check this. I want to read the Viz translation of Saturn's line. Let me see. Let me read what Viz said. Let me see this. Alright. Let's see what Viz had Saturn say. About the thing that's going to be unleashed, you know? That was a very interesting line. Oh, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick, because Rama's there. Alright. There's a danger that such wanton destruction might bring about the birth of something entirely new. Okay, so I guess... Never mind. It's not as exciting in the Viz. Eric says, I think Blackbeard is attacking the Holy Land. Oh, that'd be kind of crazy. Kaguya was a more chakra merchant. Yeah. Also, let me give you all a... because I could tell that you guys are looking at the posters behind me. Allow me to gift you guys a wonderful deal for your perusal. If you want to check those out, obviously we've got all the ships and we've got all the crews. If you click on any of those ships, you can zoom in and you'll be able to see your favorite characters basically on every single ship. And if you want to get a couple of the posters, you can actually buy 2 and get another 2 for free. So buy 2, get 2. Yeah. Check out the ships. They'll be pinned there for your for your interest. Goku is a power level merchant. See how crooked they are? They do look... Well, it's just the Red Force one. But that's because... So I've thought about that one. That's because that's over a power outlet. So maybe I should fix that one up a little bit. But the rest should be a relatively straight line. Might be the camera angle that's throwing it. Yeah, I got kind of bold with the Red Force one because I was like, let me see if I can do a second row. But there's a power outlet there. So it's kind of sticking out a little bit. I feel like Emu just looks like that. That'd be crazy if we already have Emu's design and it's just that. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't think I really like just having a literal, like, just shadow as the bad guy. Oh, Tiante Black brought up the purpose of the stream. So y'all really think Eris works for Emu? I don't. Here, let's do this. DBC is a hack merchant beaten by power level merchant series. Let's see. Is Eris bad? Yes, no. The question is the Davy clan being swapped earlier, right? So like, how did that happen? Did that make any sense? I don't know. Oh my god. All right, this is really funny because like the topic of the stream like we're trying to figure out if Eris is bad or not, and it's literally like a 90%. I think this is rare. Oh my god, 90%. All right, 91% say no. All right, you know what? This is just a chill stream then. This stream is built on lies. Because I saw people even saying, like, Eris is Emu, and Emu transformed into Eris. And I was like, so Emu transformed into Eris, and then let Rocks impregnate him? Isn't this the shit that Sukuna did that everyone made fun of him for? But this is like weirdly even stranger? Because it's like Rocks. So it's like characters that we know. It's like Emu is the new Big Mom. And it doesn't even really make sense, because then the kid is Blackbeard, who grows up wanting to kill Emu. So I don't really know what the plot was. Sorry, Kenjaku did that. HB976 says she wanted rocks in his Riz when he broke into her when he broke into her chamber. You know what? I can do a cover story tier list. Nah, I don't feel like doing a cover story tier list, because like there's so many of them, and I straight up don't remember some of them too well. The earlier ones. Let me see. I'd consider it if there's like a color. If there's a colored version. 'Cause I like seeing the colored versions of this stuff. I want to do another arcs tier list soon, because I think some of my feelings have been changing. Yeah, I'll probably do an arcs tier list at some point in the near future. It's up to you, Treviso. Thanks for the 5. Eris got killed by civilians, which is why Blackbeard doesn't give a shit about the average civilian, and why Blackbeard only cares about beating Emu. I don't know if Rocks cares about civilians, so I don't know if anyone in his family really was super civilian friendly or anything like that. Mr. Raindrop says Emu would immediately lose all of his aura if part of his master plan was getting his cheeks clapped by Rocks. Yeah, because it just seems very unnecessary. Because Emu could have probably just killed... I still don't know why Emu didn't try to kill Rocks when he had the chance. I mean, I guess it's just, it's just more dramatic to have the showdown and then Rocks gets away. Junior Cinema says, is Wano less bad now? Okay, so if I did a tier list, would it be based on like my favorite arcs, or would it be based on like, what would it be based on? Like if it's my favorite arcs, is my like tier list, would it be my favorite arcs, or would it be like what I think are best? Because my favorite arcs are like how do I put this? Like Arlong Park, I don't think is necessarily like a top 5 arc in One Piece, but it's a top 5 arc for me. Like I really love it. So if I was doing a tier list, I wouldn't put it in like S or SS or anything, but I definitely. But if it was like my favorites list, then I'd put it higher. Yeah, that's tricky. Because Wano actually ranks higher on my favorites list now, probably, than where I would put it on a tier list. It's still low on my favorites, but it's higher than it was initially. I think it's just because of the anime. Sorry. Anime fights just gassed up too much. Shizzer2, thanks for the 10. Hi, Morge, love the content, but just wanted to ask. As of right now, gun to the head, do you think Blackbeard or Emu is going down first? If you can't answer on stream, it's okay, lol. Is the Wano analysis still coming? Yes, the Wano analysis is still coming, and I have a schedule to try and complete it and get it out before the end of the year. Do I think Blackbeard or Emu is going down first? So I think even last stream, this came up. I feel like it comes up somewhat frequently. Gun to my head right now, I think Blackbeard is the final villain, if I had to guess right now. Yeah, I think Blackbeard's the final villain. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. But it's 51% chance. I could see it being Emu also. I think by the end of God Valley, I think I'll have a better idea. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. The world government should recruit Miss Golden Week to solo Luffy. Just send the God's Knights to deal with his bum-ass crew, and then the little girl negs the god. Yeah. If the world government really knew just how vulnerable Luffy is to so many things, they would not be having this many issues with him. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. JWP, thanks for the 10. The interesting thing about Eris from this chapter is that she was a pirate. Also, it's just sus that Eris's name is on the circle. Clearly, Oda's planning something. I just have zero idea what. Yeah, that's the thing. It just can't be. Let me look at the circle again. Man, because I kind of wrote off the circle. I was like, I don't think the circle's... Because people pointed out the name Eris, and I was just like, isn't this just gibberish that people are like trying to make words out of? But it is a thing. So I think it was what, chapter 1151? Maybe it was 1150. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. What chapter does Emu make this pentagram? I forgot about Emu's other abilities. Emu can make guns and shit like that. Weapons. It's kind of random. Okay, here we go. Eris D. Tar. Khgie. No, I literally can't understand anything. Yeah, I got nothing else out of that. It is confusing. It can't be a coincidence, right? Because people are already talking about the name Eris before this. Benson Atkins says, will Blackbeard be redeemed by the end? I think so. I think redeemed in the sense that, like, I think Blackbeard will get a moment of, like, vengeance on Celestial Dragons or something in a way. But I don't think we're going to be ever looking at him as a good character. Because, like, he killed his own father, you know? Who, like, adopted him and everything. Guns and pitchforks are random. Yeah. I need the Strats to learn hockey. Like, for real, I think that's what Elbaf is going to teach them. I have no idea how the rest of Elbaf is going to... I feel like we're at the final battle of Elbaf now. Because I can't imagine we get this whole flashback and then Elbaf takes even longer. You know? I can't imagine that. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, we get the whole flashback and then Elbaf continues from there. Especially because Emu says that he's there for... continues as in, like, this isn't the final battle, some stuff happens, and then we're in Elbaf for even longer, and then we return for another final battle. Rox would 100% disown his son if he saw what he was doing. Yeah, especially because, like, Whitebeard fucking had Rox's... Like, Whitebeard had Rox's back in this fight. He was there for him. When, like, pretty much nobody else... Well, Kaido was. I think Kaido wanted to test out his own abilities to some degree, though. But, like, yeah. Like, that's the dude that tried to help save Blackbeard's father's life. And then Blackbeard kills him. You know? I do think it's going to be Usopp's arc. Eris is in Heaven Realm. Yeah, so many characters could be in Heaven Realm at this point. Carnage, thanks for the 5. There's a small possibility that Davy Jones is the final villain. The way Robin explained it in Chapter 306 implies he is still alive on the sea floor. I mean, that would be the myth around him, right? That'd be the myth around... I would really dislike if Davy Jones is, like, pulled out of the bottom of the ocean, just be the final villain of One Piece. I think we're a little too late for that, because now we're in the final saga, you know? People already felt like, okay, Emu is being introduced too late into the story, but now we have had more time for this, and like Emu was introduced. Emu was introduced basically at the start of the Versus 4, or not at the start of the verse. Emu was introduced at least like chapter 900, roughly, right? 907, 908. And then there's probably like another 300 to 400 chapters of One Piece to go after that. So I feel like that's sufficient time, for the character to be like, okay, not a last minute edition. 300 to 400 chapters, that's like the full length of Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, stuff like that, right? So I think Emu's fine. But Davy Jones being unveiled right now, that'd be pretty late, Oh, 906. I was thinking about the Empty Throne chapter. Yeah. Tornado says, now that we're chilling right now, it's time to revisit the Kizaru versus Luffy discussion. Fuck no. Yeah, that would be the Kaguya of One Piece way more than Emu. I agree. Declan Murphy says the world government as a whole has been an enemy for a while too. Yeah, that's what I've talked about in videos as well, which is that if you view Emu as representative of the entire world government, because like we've kind of been going up the pyramid of first we learn like, okay, submarines suck, then we learn the world government in general is bad, then we learn, okay, the Celestial Dragons are like the really bad ones behind the whole world government, and then finally we're learning, okay, who's behind the Celestial Dragons, and that's Emu, right? So it all naturally flows, whereas Davy Jones it's not like, you could say Davy Jones symbolizes all evil pirates, but it's not like Davy Jones is like the great entity behind all the evil pirates. It's not like he's the boss of like Kaido, Big Mom, Doflamingo, all the pirates that we've been fighting or anything, right? Like it would just be another figure that was mentioned once way far back, but now is being pulled out of the bottom of the ocean at the end. So I would say that if Davy Jones is in the story, I would like it to be either as some alternate personality for Blackbeard that's been passed down, or there's just got to be something to it, because it's like the Davy clan. Davy Jones was like Rox is a worship follower of Davy Jones or whatever. Davy Jones has this legend. Davy backfights. There is something to the Davy Jones stuff. I just don't know, like, is it like Blackbeard supposed to awaken Davy Jones inside of him or something like that? Or is there a Davy Jones mythical fruit? I'm saying, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 21 months, man. Yo, I noticed you left Figarland Redbeard off your God Valley strength ranking. Figarland Redbeard? Who's that? Also, random question, but you mentioned that you used to live in the office you worked at, right? They were cool with that? Yeah, in the sense that the office that this would have been 2020, 2019 till like 2020 start of COVID. Okay. This was back when I was doing like a little video promo business that turned into a little video marketing business, right? And one of the two people that I worked with, he rented an office. He already had office space that he rented because he ran a different business that was semi-successful. So because he had that space, and I couldn't afford to pay rent anywhere else at that point in time, I was allowed to just during the day, we're all working on the marketing stuff, and then at night, all right, now they leave, and then the office is now my space, and so I get to just sleep there. So it was kind of nice for me because that was the first time that I got to live basically solo, so no family, no roommates or anything like that. So I very much appreciated that. Now I could never imagine going back to having to live in that. Because did you know this was in Baltimore? So there were rats and stuff like that, and there was actually a hole. I don't think I've even talked about this part, but there was like a hole in the side of the walling where like at night I could literally hear some nights like rats come out and then search around the room for if there are crumbs and stuff like that, and I would just try to stay asleep because I can't be getting up at night. Like, that's a thing that I can't do. Like, I can't get up when it's like pitch black and then walk around with potentially like a rat on the floor or something. So that was not good. And I tried covering it up, but the area that I covered up, I realized was not the correct area, that it wasn't actually where the rat was coming through. And then later on, one of the other people that I worked with, I don't know, I keep referring to him as this, he's also became the editor of this channel, right? Because he's the one I started the video promo business with and everything. And then we met the third guy who was already the established business owner who let me stay in the office, yada, yada. Anyway, the editor for this channel, one day I was telling him about the rat situation, and then he actually did some looking around the room, and he found the actual spot where the hole was, and then he was able to tape that up. And then I was like, oh my God, I can sleep so much better now. But anyway, that is not a space that I could ever like imagine myself living in again. But that was, when you say like they were cool with that, it's not that they were cool with it. It's like that was the whole plan. Like, it's not like I was working a 9-to-5 job for somebody else and then like secretly living in an office. It was like, this was a business that all three of us were working on, and it just made it so much easier if I could be out in the city at the office, and then it just allowed me to not have to, you know, do the commute or anything like that, and then finally have my own place in a sense. So it was just a win-win situation. There's a lot of stories about that I could go into, and that I've even talked about in a separate video that's on Morge Unleashed, but I don't want to get into all those details again. There's times that I was like, because there's other people who lived, or not lived, only I lived, but other people who worked in the other offices. So imagine this: the person that we were working with, right, our business partner, he had rented this floor. Okay, he had rented this floor, and one was his office that he used to run his own business that he had, right, which was a baseball coaching business. Then one was the office that was basically his little investment, which was like, for me, the editor, we worked on the marketing business, the video marketing business, which turned into a marketing business, and then he was also involved in that, okay? That was the office that at night I could then turn into my bedroom, right? Then there were 3 other rooms on the floor that were also offices that were rented out by independent business owners from him. So they're supposed to be their own little businesses that they're running, and they're renting from him, but just the space, right? So he's not telling them that there's somebody on the floor that's living there, which is me. So that was the whole thing, where over time, I think some of them, I don't want to get into the whole thing. It's on Morge Unleashed. It's on the Morge Unleashed channel. But over time, it became more apparent that there was somebody living at that, like, in this floor that's not supposed to be living there. And then over more time, it became apparent to the people that were there that it was me. And then it just became kind of awkward because, like, none of us ever, like, directly called that out. Like, I was never directly called out on it, and I was never forced to leave or anything. But there were emails that were sent, like, to the guy that was renting the place, which was like, we suspect that there's somebody who is staying overnight at on this floor, and that's not supposed to be a thing. We found, like, a bath towel that was left behind in the bathroom. We found, like, the stove was on and someone was cooking eggs or something like that, you know? Anyway, continuing on. Oh my god. Blues Tints, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 34 months, man. What's up, Morge? Catching up on the stream. I think it's great that Blackbeard will end up at Lucia, as it will further his drive to bring the whole world to ruin because of oppression from non-celestials. Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, because Lucia sucks in other ways too, right? From what I remember. Davy Jones equals Joy Boy. Join the theory piece agenda. Maybe. I just don't know about that. I don't know about Davy Jones being Joy Boy. I don't know. I don't know if I'd like that. I guess we could. Also, the descriptions of what Joy Boy is like, or what Davy Jones is like, doesn't seem to Um, doesn't seem to... The opinions of what Davy Jones, or like the myth around Davy Jones, doesn't seem to fit with what Joy Boy was like. Because I feel like Joy Boy was a very Luffy-esque figure whereas Davy Jones seems like a very greedy type pirate. Not necessarily bad, but not necessarily like Joy Boy to me. Sheriff Laffy, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 36 months, man. We follow you to hear your opinions, not the consensus of the community. I like the tier lists that focus on your takes and opinions first. Oh, thanks, man. But I will say that, like, I also, like, it would still be my opinion. Like, it wouldn't just be me saying community. If you're talking about, like, my arc rankings or whatever, like, there's arcs that I think that are better or worse based on, like, my own subjective critical standards. But then that would still be a different list than, like, my personal favorites, if that makes sense. Like, what I think, like, I think Arlong Park's a good example. Arlong Park has a lot of nostalgia for me. So, like, I can acknowledge that it's my favorite, or like one of my favorite arcs, just because of timing that I viewed it, like the memories associated with it, things like that. But I don't know if I'd be like, oh, but I think Arlong Park is like a better arc than, let's say, an arc that I hold in higher like writing esteem or something like that. So I could do both, I guess. Henchme976 says, was there a shower? Yes, and the shower was so. For full context, right? This was in Baltimore. All right, this was in Baltimore, and there's an area in Baltimore which is like, what's the name of the street? Is it 34th Street? I forget now. It's like, yeah, it's like the Hampton area in Baltimore, basically. There's like how to explain this? It's the Hampton area in Baltimore, which the simplest way I can explain is that it's a lot of like apartment buildings that are repurposed into businesses. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's got a lot of apartment buildings that small businesses are run out of. So when I say I go into this this building, right? I'm going up a flight of stairs, and then there's a floor that originally was for residential service, like people to actually have little apartments or whatever, but it's like, or maybe it was supposed to be like just one floor that maybe it's just like a singular apartment, but it has like 5 rooms spread across the stretch of the entire floor, and it's a very long floor, and then it's got a little kitchen and it's got a shower. So it feels like from the beginning, it was probably set up to be like a space that people could live. But, you know, then it got bought out or whatever. And then it became, like the guy that we knew rented the space from a landlord. And then he rented out the spaces in there, the individual rooms, to people who wanted to own businesses. So it's not like it was like, if you're imagining an office, like literally I'm walking into like a bank office or something like that, it's not like that. I'm saying, thanks for the 5. Do you think Blackbeard's mom being this prominent in the story suggests that Luffy's mom will actually be important and shown in the Dragon flashback? I think so. I think Luffy's mom will be important, and I think that's why Oda's playing so coy with her. I don't know about the Tritoma stuff now, though. Maybe it's possible. Shizzer2, welcome to the Yonko. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but yeah, thanks very much for joining. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the weekly podcasts that come out. There'll be a podcast this Tuesday, tomorrow, with the video that comes out. Cool Fugel, thanks for the 2. Morge was roommates with Shanks lore. Oh, man. The Vortex of Flames, thanks for the 10. I believe Elbaf is about perspective. Rayleigh's statement suggests the Straw Hats will come to a different answer about the Void Century. I predict Blackbeard will reveal its dark history, causing chaos. That's actually a very good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, because Elbaf does get into like how different people can view the same sort of stories or mythologies from a different lens. It's a really good point. Carnage, thanks for the 5. If Blackbeard has multiple personalities, maybe Joyboy did as well. Joyboy / Davy Jones. Oh, also think Davy Jones had the Darkness Fruit, which turns out to be a Zoan. I think there's a solid chance that the Darkness Fruit could turn out to be a Zoan now. I think that there's a decently solid chance. Because everything that's like kind of special feels like it's going to be a Zoan now. Eric says, lol, the bullshit we do just to be in the arts. I mean, at that point in time, it was specifically, that was more so for business. Because it was a video promotion business, but it was a business for business owners, you know? That was our clientele. So it wasn't purely artistic. The goal was to be able to get enough money that then I could make my own independent small films, but that's still a work in progress. Things have gone in a complicated route, but everything is still working towards the same thing. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5, man. Ace following 36-year-old leads looking for Blackbeard on Lucia. No stone unturned. Oh, yeah, I fucking forgot. That's so crazy. That's actually really interesting. That's a really good point. Like, it adds... Like, I don't know if Oda planned that necessarily from the beginning, but the fact that Ace was on Lucia Kingdom, like, now even makes sense if that's, like, a little lead for where Blackbeard might have gone to. Because... Or... Did Blackbeard come back through the Lucia Kingdom? Because it seems like Ace got a lead on Blackbeard after that. So it's very possible that Blackbeard's journey or whatever, he did revisit his hometown and moved on from there. That's a really good point. Yeah, after breaking off with Whitebeard Pirates, Blackbeard went on his journey or whatever, and then in the process, he did drop by his hometown. I guess Lucia's not really his hometown, but, you know, an old place of his, right? Maybe he came back to Lucia, then moved on from there, and then in the process, like, Ace also came, visited, like, he's just tracking the places that Blackbeard went to, right? It seems like Ace is on, like, because he went to Drum Kingdom first, where Blackbeard went to, so I would not be surprised if Blackbeard just chose to go to Lucia Kingdom himself, you know? JWP, thanks for the 10. I saw people saying that Kaido's become a lot more likable during the flashback. Agree, if only he didn't enslave Wano. Counterpoint. I don't even like the people of Wano that much, for real, so Team Kaido. That's funny. Yeah, the people of Wano could be annoying. I think that most characters, like a lot of characters, became more likable in the flashback. Like, because if you just read everybody as they're on the Rocks Pirates, they're fun. Like, Big Mom, I thought became a lot more likable over the flashback. Because there's that scene, I think the scene that did it is just like her in the bar drinking with like Rox and Roger and shit like that. Like, that's very fun and casual. Obviously, Kaido is likable when you see him like kind of as the cabin boy role, but also trying to like strive to get up there with the big guys. Who else? Even Shiki. We didn't see much or know much of Shiki before this, but like Shiki's a solid guy. Shiki's fun. You know, like these characters just naturally become more likable in the context of the Rocks Pirates. It's after everything split up that they became nastier figures, you know? Jumbo Dumbo, thanks for the 5. Does Rocks formally disband the Rocks Pirates before dying like Roger did in chapter 968, giving the illusion that Garp broke them up? World government propaganda? Ooh. I don't think Rocks formally disbands them because we do have that quote from Kaido about like pirates abandoning Rocks. And while, you know, like Whitebeard's being a good guy stepping up to help Rocks, I think just based on Rocks' reaction, I think Rocks doesn't expect most of his crew to do that. So maybe Rocks does formally disband it, but I could also imagine them all just splitting with the loot that they got. But I do think that, like, the simple fact that Rocks goes down there, Rocks Pirates disband, it does make it easy for the world government to now push the propaganda that, you know, that Garp did it. Tiptia Treviso, thanks to the 2. I think the Yami fruit is the ocean Logia fruit. I just don't agree with, because like the color, like the only thing it really does is like counteract devil fruit abilities that's tied to the ocean. But everything else it does is, you know, it seems more like it's the concept of darkness, you know, rather than water or anything related. Keep it low key, please. Thanks to the 5. What do you think about armament hockey being able to be put on wind? Could be a cool ability of Dragon or Shanks. We know hockey can be put on swords. So I don't know about armament, but I do have this vision of like, wouldn't it be cool if like Dragon could do these giant like ranged Conqueror's Haki attacks if like it's just like Conqueror's Haki that's being like directed as wind blasts or something. But it just doesn't add up with what we've seen. I think it'd be cool if it could be a thing, but it doesn't match what we've seen so far of how Conqueror's Haki is used. I think we've never really seen Konkurazaki being applied to like a ranged devil fruit attack, as far as I can recall. Like, obviously it can be used for coating on attacks, but like a devil fruit attack, like somebody, let's say, throws a fireball or something like that, but the fireball has haki on it. I don't think we've seen that. If people can remember an example of that, then let me know. Powerful NL, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 29 months, man. Thanks for the long time support. War's thoughts on the Yamato cover story. I talked about it earlier on stream. If you want to scroll back, I gave my full rant, but I can give a condensed version now. I held back on saying negative things about this cover story for a long time because with cover stories, I always want to wait to see where Oda goes with it. I think I've been quick to judge cover stories in the past, but generally it's like, okay, if we wait to see where it goes with it, maybe it's got a really cool twist at the end. It's rare that Oda has done a cover story that's like really long and boring and there's not some juice for us at the end. I think the last time he did that was the Pound cover story, worst cover story in One Piece history. But with this one, I was like, Wano, it's such an important island. It still has many mysteries and it's going to be plot relevant soon because we imagine probably Blackbeard, someone going to be trying to come to Wano. It's got Pluton and everything. Fuck, even Kaido Big Mom coming back. It has so much plot potential, and definitely some things have to happen, like Pluton being unearthed at some point. So with Wano being an island that's like so rife with potential, right? Like when the Pound cover story was happening, it was just like, why? What even? Who asked for this? There's nothing that we really want to re-explore with like the Pound situation. And if anything, most people wanted him dead, right? So that was like odd. But with Wano, as like the potential is very high, so like let's wait and see because you know this is an island that there is more that can be unearthed, right? And there is plot stuff that's coming. So I had no fun reading this cover story because like it's just revisiting a shit ton of Wano side characters is basically what it is, and I don't think Wano had that many good side characters. So it's just doing a tour of Wano, showing us all the side characters again. It's doing it through Yamato, literally my least favorite character in One Piece. Feels like a weird fan insert. Yeah, that's basically what it's been so far, but I held out hope because I was like, there's going to be something. We did get the Kazuki Moria reveal, which I think is interesting. I thought that's interesting, but I don't think it's like anywhere near as interesting as other things that have happened in other cover stories. It's interesting in that it could set up for Moria's reveal of like obviously being a poneglyph reader and everything, which could be useful to cross guild, as I've talked about. I still don't feel like that warrants how long and how dull this cover story was, with no like, it just didn't. Even everything interesting that was dropped into this cover story is potential. Like, oh, there's kidnappings going on. Is there somebody bad that's still in Wano? And it's like, oh, it's fucking who's who. All right, like, I don't know. It's personally one of my least favorite cover stories ever. I'm saying thanks for the 2. What was your least favorite character before Yamato? That's actually very difficult because I don't think I really have... Oh, maybe it was Law. I forgot. Yeah, maybe it's Law. But Law, the thing is, like, Law I fully acknowledge... I've said this many times. Law I fully acknowledge, like, my dislike for Law is... not really logical, because I don't think that Law is a bad character. I think if I really sat down with it, I probably would think that Law is a good character. But Yamato it's the reverse. If you go back and watch my chapter reviews when Yamato's character is first revealed and everything, I was excited. I thought that this was a cool, like, twist addition to the finale of Wano, like the final like the battle or whatever. I did still think the raid's gonna fail at that point, so I guess I thought that was actually another thing that fueled it, because I was just like, okay, Oda's introducing this very important character to the story, it seems like, Kaido's son, and of course Oda's not just going to introduce a character this important in the middle of the final battle. Like, that would just be such a joke, writing-wise, right? So I was like, okay, clearly this character probably set up for, indicates more story to come, right? Because it would be really random if we're just having this character dropped on us when the big final battle against the boss is happening. So I just figured Yamato character that probably had their own arc that had to happen in Wano or whatever. Or at the very least that, like, Yamato's annoyingness would go away, you know? but it didn't at all. In fact, it got worse. Yeah, so with Law, I kind of was annoyed with the fact that Law was taking up story time right from the beginning, with Punk Hazard. I felt like he was stealing the spotlight from Luffy right from the beginning. Yamato, I came in with an open mind, and then at every single chapter of Yamato's progression, it just got more and more annoying. Yeah. So I guess Law was my least favorite character, but Law was like illogical. There was no reasoning for it. I mean, there is reasoning. There was reasoning, but not in terms of him being a bad character. More so in terms of, like, it just really threw me to see the entire show become, like, I felt like we'd all been watching Family Matters, and then they introduced Steve Urkel, and now it's the Steve Urkel show, and I'm the only person sitting there that's still just like, guys, I tuned in to watch Family Matters. Why are we watching the Steve Urkel show? I like the show the way it was before it became the Steve Urkel show. That's my biggest issue with Law. That's the way I can summarize it. Keep in mind, I've never seen I've seen some Family Matters episodes, but only the Steve Urkel ones that he's really prominent. So I actually don't know what Family Matters was like before Steve Urkel. But anyway. Bubble Bass is more just being a pick-me with Law. No, I dislike... This is before I felt it was fucking part of the One Piece community or anything. I just dislike Law. I just dislike the fact that, like, this character fucking just took over the series. And nobody cared. And then, like, once I did start posting or commenting on Reddit and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, I want to interact with other One Piece fans, I was shocked to see, like, we were partway through Dressrosa, and people were still just, like... People were riding Law's dick. I thought that people would be on here at least would be reasonable and be like, why isn't the story focusing on the Straw Hats? Like, I think Dressrosa was really like the breaking point for me for Law, because already with Punk Hazard, it was so fucking disappointing, man. I feel like I'm going back through sad memories. Keep in mind, I'm a weekly reader at this point, right? So I've just watched, like, the last time in One Piece that I've watched Luffy get, like, a satisfying win against, like, an arc boss was fucking Lucci in Enies Lobby, okay? Lucci in Enies Lobby. I guess then Moria and Thriller Bark, but that was a really short fight. So really Lucci in Enies Lobby. After that, I had to watch Luffy get his ass kicked for 100 chapters straight from Saboti through Impel down through Marineford, okay? So I'm ready for Luffy to get back up. I'm ready for the Strats to get back up. Like, I'm really hyped about this whole training because I'm like, these characters... They've been taking L's for so long. It's been so long since we had a big dramatic fight. I'm really excited to see them go out into the New World and do stuff. Instead, we get Fishman Island. They fight fodder. It's like, whatever. Warm-up arc, right? New World. New World starts. I'm really excited to see Luffy finally get, like, his time to shine, the rest of the Strats, etc., right? And we're in Punk Hazard, and it's like, this is the arc that I've been waiting so long for Luffy to finally get his stuff. And the first arc back from the first arc in the New World, Luffy's not even the one who gets the big fight. It's like Law's fighting Virgo. Okay, Luffy fights Caesar, a literal clown. We're going back to buggy levels of, like, threat here. And it's just, it felt so disappointing, and the story's treating Law like he's the main character now. Okay, and then we get to Dressrosa, and I'm like, okay, well here it'll be time for Luffy and the Straw Hats to shine, right? But it's like, no, the tipping point, like the breaking point for me was like, we're 30 chapters deep into Dressrosa, and at this point, it is so fucking insane. At this point in time, after like already 200-something chapters of me waiting for Luffy and the Strats to finally get something significant again, right? And like a 2-year time skip, and waiting through 50 chapters of Fishman Island bullshit, 50 chapters of Punk Hazard, all the Strats just running around, not doing anything, right? Law getting all the shine. We're now in Dressrosa, 30 chapters deep, right? And Oda has actually shipped off half the Straw Hats that I've been waiting to see more of. He's just shipped them off to the next island. He's like, we're done with them. We need more screen time for Law, as if we don't have enough. Law is currently in the middle of fighting Doflamingo and Fujitora. This is the type of shit I was waiting for Luffy to do once he got to the New World. Like, Law's having the most epic battle against fucking admirals and Chichibuka and stuff like that. And Luffy's fucking dressed up as Lucy fighting, like, Don Chinjao and Hideo and Hadrudin in the fucking Coliseum. Like, I was just like, the whole world is fucking turned upside down and everyone's fucking eating it up. Literally, like, so long waiting for the Straw Hats to get their time to shine in the New World. We're in the New World. Law's the hero of Punk Hazard, okay? Get halfway through Dressrosa, it's like, fuck the Straw Hats. You want Straw Hats? Go fetch. Get him. Next arc. They're at Zou. You want to see Luffy in action against some of these heavy hitters like Fujitora in this arc or like Doflamingo or fucking Burgess? No. Luffy fights fucking 90-year-old Chinjao. Worst Conqueror's Haki user of all time. Law gets to fight both Fujitora and Doflamingo at the same time. It was absolute, like, fucking Twilight Zone upside down world bullshit. I was like, what the fuck is happening and why do people like this? I was just so confused. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Henchme976 says, to be fair, Law got stomped. He did get stomped because that's naturally what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that, like, this was weeks and weeks. This was like half a year of, like... Like, and keep in mind the pace One Piece releases at. Like, this is a long-ass period of time that Law is getting all the spotlight, Oda shitting on the rest of the Strats, and he's fucking dropped Luffy into, like, the worst tournament arc in manga history, basically. Like, it made no sense. Against a bunch of bums and nobodies. Oda's like, you ready for, like, the best fighters of the New World? In this corner, we have, like, Blue Gilly. And then these jacket fruit idiots over here. And it's like, Oda, come on, man. We know the good stuff's outside. We saw Fujitora. We saw Doflamingo. Why'd you put Luffy in this bullshit? Anyway. And then it's like, at least Jesus Burgess is in there. So it's like, okay, some Blackbeard pirate is here. But it's like, no. But he's in a different division than Luffy. And Luffy will never fight him. It's like, okay. That was mind-blowing to me. And yeah, I get it. The story turned around. At some point in time, it was finally like, okay, it's done being just a Law show. And then for the next 50 chapters of Dressrosa, it was the Law and Luffy show. Because then it became Law and Luffy traveling up the plateau. And Law and Luffy fighting Doflamingo. And then mostly became Law fighting Doflamingo. But then finally, fucking like chapter... Like, basically at the last 10% of Dressrosa, that's when it became like back to, okay, now it's time for Luffy to finally get his first big fight in the New World versus Doflamingo. But it was such a fucking drag getting there that it fucking bothered the fuck out of me. It's just like, why am I reading One Piece? I did not sign up to read this dude. Like, it's just, it felt like the whole, like, does Oda think that chapter 1 was about Law setting off to sea saying I'm going to become king of the pirates? Look, I'm cool with stuff like God Valley because it's clearly like, it's a flashback. And obviously these are characters that Oda's built up for a long-ass period of time, characters that we're already invested in, like Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, right? Like, Law was a character we met once at fucking Subodhi. Once at Subodhi, all right? Brief meeting. That's it. And then you flash forward to the New World, and it's like, guess what, guys? I tricked you all. Law's now the main character of the whole thing. All right, anyway, continuing on. Let me catch the supers I missed while I was complaining about things. Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 20. Didn't Katakuri shoot hockey spikes with his mochi fruit? Also, I think coding on wind itself would be cool. Could be tied to voice of all things. Coding nature and objects. The knot could be an example of Conqueror's Haki coding. That's a good point. I do think Haki infusion is still a thing, so I think that explains the knot. Coding nature and objects, that could be really cool as a next level thing. Like, imagining a Kainu shooting, like, magma attacks, but with coding on them. The Katakuri spike stuff. So, here's the thing. We know that you can do it with projectiles, now that I'm thinking about it, because, like, Ben Beckman did it with a gun, like, he's pointing a gun at Kizaru. You can assume that they're done with projectiles with, like, Amazon Lily. That's, like, the first examples of Haki, to be armament, to be honest. So, like, projectiles can be done. But I guess I was saying, like more elemental abilities. Like, I can't really think of an example of, like, a fireball being thrown with Haki on it. Or, like, lightning. So it's always physical things that have been coded so far. You know? Marco Saint, thanks a lot, man. Sengoku said Roger and Garp beat rocks. I doubt he was lying because why would he even mention Roger then? If you agree, then how do you think it pans out? Is it just Dami Reversi rocks? Where do Whitebeard and Kaido go from here? That's true, because, like, why would Sengoku include that if he's trying to spread propaganda? It doesn't seem like it fits the propaganda, right? I wonder if Sengoku maybe doesn't know the full story either. I think Sengoku maybe doesn't know the full story. Maybe Garp told him something because Garp wanted to hide something. But it might just be Dami Reversi rocks as well. And where do Whitebeard and Kaido go from here? So this week I'm actually doing... So tomorrow's video is coming out, and then I've actually got another video coming out Saturday, which is not usual. It's a break week. I'm not going to make that the norm. But it's a smaller video just because this chapter is so much to talk about. And that video will talk about what happens with Whitebeard and Kaido, because I don't think that they make it through the full battle with Emu here. SMX Wing, thanks for the 5. Roger and Garp will be Dami Reversied. It will explain why Rock's lost, possibly his life. You think Roger and Garp will be Dami Reversied? Why Roger aided the Celestial Dragons, and why Garp didn't rebel against Celestial Dragons. Oh, that would be insane, and I would not want to see Roger and Garp in that situation. I just don't like that. I would rather they fight Rock's Dami Reversied than anything else. I don't know about that. That is a really interesting idea, though. It's very possible. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5, man. Have you heard about the new species of spider named after Inazuma? Also, lol, reasonable people on Reddit. I don't know what that's in response for, if that's talking about, like, law or not. But I feel like most people are fans of law, and I imagine most people liked it in... people had issues with Dressrosa when it was coming out weekly, but that was largely due to pacing. I think I was maybe one of the few people that disliked law for it. New species of spider named after Inazuma? Is that a real thing? This species is named after Inazuma, a character from the Japanese... That's so interesting. But why not name it after Ivankov? Why? Like, that's like a hardcore... It's a Frankenstein spider found in Thailand that is half male, half female. Yeah, why not name it after Ivankov? Because Inazuma is more of a... like a deep cut One Piece character. Like, you have to be a big One Piece fan to, like, think of Inazuma, you know? Like, it's not like a really obscure One Piece character. Everyone knows Inazuma, but, like, it's not even, like, even among One Piece's, like, decently large roster of trans characters, Inazuma's, like, you would think of Ivankov or, like, Bon Clay or someone first, you know? The Lowman, thanks for the 2. Law is just him, bro. Oh, man. I'm so sad. Again, the fucked up part is that if Law were introduced earlier in the story, I would probably like Law. Like, if Law was one of Luffy's first crewmates or some shit, I would probably really like Trafalgar Law. But he's not, you know? He's just a random character halfway through the story that just took over the story. Mossy05, thanks for the 5. Law's a devil fruit merchant bum. I'm tired of people comparing him to good hockey users like Zoro or even Sanji. I also agree with that. He is just a good devil fruit. He's just a devil fruit merchant. I don't know how he compares in hockey to Sanji. I like to believe Sanji at least is better observation hockey than Law. But Law is just a devil fruit merchant. I agree. Jizzer2 says, hi Morge, what's your favorite cover arc in One Piece? I love being a Yonko now, Worororo, as having just joined the Yonko. Here, I don't want to do a full tier list, but let me pull up the One Piece cover stories. And let me see what is my favorite? Here, hold on. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Okay. So, out of all of them, Buggy's crew is... I have an attachment to this one, kind of, because... Not an attachment, but I low-key like this one because it... I watched it in the anime. This is back when the anime would... Yeah, back when the anime would adapt the episodes. I didn't like it, obviously, in the time that I watched it, because I was like, why are we watching this? This is random, silly stuff. Like, I wanted to get back to Strahd shit, you know? But in retrospect, it's a cover story that stands out more because I saw it fully animated. Kobe Yamapo, I think I skipped this even when it came up in the anime. I did not like Kobe's character back in the day. This is a silly one. Back when cover stories didn't need a point. You guys can see my screen, right? Yeah. Okay. Shit, ads. Get out of here. All right. Yeah, I don't think I've even ever read Hachin's cover story in full. This one's okay. This is the first like good cover story I think in terms of plot stuff. At least, and now it has added weight in that we can speculate, about did Blackbeard come to Lucia, yada yada. Also note at this, it's not worth getting into. Geratsu's, this is a funny one. This is a good one. I think this is probably an early, really strong cover story because it's the first time I think that we really get to. We had a villain organization that was so robust and significant with Baroque Works. That was our first really significant villain group, and so getting to delve through what happened with them and everything, I think that was interesting. This is obviously like a very notable cover story for like a million reasons. There's not that much to say about it. I'll just say it's not one of my favorite cover stories because it's probably the single most significant and important cover story because it's the only cover story. I think to date, NL's Great Space Operations is the only cover story that reveals a significant plot point that isn't also yet explained in the modern day story. By that I mean, like, if you look at other cover stories, right? So everything that happens, even when they have significant developments, like Ace finding the clue to get to Blackbeard, right? That's still something that we will find out regardless in the main story. Like we do find out that Ace successfully tracked down Blackbeard, right? Same with like the Baroque Works stuff, right? We do eventually find out what happened. Like this establishes who got away, who's going to continue to go to jail, etc. But we do find out later on, Crocodile and Impel Down, Mr. 1 and Impel Down, Mr. 2 and Impel Down. Like, it establishes, like, everything established here is stuff we learn later. Like, Bartolomeo burning the flag in the cover story, right? I'm just giving examples. He burns the flag in the cover story, but that's something that we found out later on. Like, if you're just reading the story as is, without the cover stories, you find that out later on anyway, right? Like, we get that scene with the confrontation between the red-haired pirates and Bartolomeo, right? Generally, even any of the big things that are revealed in the cover story, like Jinbei finding a poneglyph, you could skip the cover story the same way the anime skips the cover stories. You could skip the cover stories, and you will find out that plot development in the main story. Like, what would have happened is just Jinbei arriving at Whole Cake Island and showing Big Mom I found a poneglyph, right? For a lot of the cover stories, even the ones we consider good that have like a notable plot event, it's a plot event that will be revealed in the main story regardless. The cover story just fills in like a little bit of the behind the scenes of getting to that plot event, if that makes sense, okay? NL's Great Space Operations, I think, is unique because it's to date still the only cover story where the information in this cover story is very, very significant. It's both very significant and it's not something that you can get without reading the cover story. Like, the stuff in the cover story to date is still unique information that has never come up in the manga yet. Like, nobody in the main story has mentioned this or revealed this or anything like that. Like, does that make sense? So that's why this is a special one. It's just not one of my favorites because, like, the plot feels... I don't know what to make of the plot for this. And I don't like NL, generally speaking. Like, I like him as a villain, but I don't like seeing him as the hero of a cover story. CP9s, that's a cool one. Endearing for this group, in a sense. This is a very important cover story. So this is obviously one of my favorites. It's just, like, do you even call it like, it's another example of what I was talking about, which is, like, you could skip the cover story, and in the main manga, we still end up filling in what happens with all of the Straw Hats, but this just shows us a little bit of the in-between before we get there. This one I should like as a cover story, but I don't, because I've always said that I feel like this should have been in the actual manga itself. I think reducing this to a cover story is not satisfying. I prefer seeing the characters actually, like, talk and have speech bubbles and stuff. I don't want to see just, like, a picture of a character reading a newspaper. The same way, like, post Enies Lobby, we got a full... Oh, shit. Is my audio working? Hello, testing. Yeah, it's working. Okay, it's all good. Yeah. This one I feel like should have been a real thing, right? So this is an example of a cover story that does have really juicy stuff in it, like all the reactions and revelations of like how the world is right now. But the same way post Enies Lobby, we got like a couple chapters dedicated to that. That felt much more satisfying to me than this. I feel like, to me, almost everything about the Dressrosa arc felt like complicated, because complicated in the sense that it felt like half in, half out. It felt like it's supposed to feel like a big climactic conclusion to a saga, which it was, but it still also felt like only a half, like not quite committing to being that, because it was still just a stepping stone to trying to get to Kaido, right? So it feels like it's the big conclusion to the storyline, but we're also still only halfway through this storyline. So we're like, we concluded like the miniature story, like it feels like bigger than concluding a normal arc, but also not the same as like finishing an outright major story movement. And then a lot of things added to that, like, okay, well, half the crew is missing, so we can't have like the real traditional party and everything. And so we're just taking care of stuff here, and then we're continuing on to really get to the big stuff for the rest of the crew. The bounties were very low, right? Like there were very, very low bounty reveals for this, and some of the crew got bounty increases that were just like arbitrary, right? Like not even earned. It was just like they weren't even at Dressrosa, so they just got like a default like 50 million. I think Luffy got a very low bounty. Like this was one of Luffy's lowest bounty increases ever for like a major saga conclusion. It just went from 400 to 500. Percentage wise, I think it's like Luffy's lowest bounty increase ever. Like his bounty went up 25%, right? Yeah, which pretty much never happens. Usually it's a big jump. I guess from 300 to 400 even that's a bigger jump proportionally. But yeah, it wasn't smaller bounties, increases, most of the crew's missing, very much still feels like we only beat the mini boss, now we got to get the main boss. And then the thing that capped it off was even the reactions to the Stride's victory over Doflamingo and Luffy's big return, the Stride's big return, the new bounties. All of that was just done in a cover story rather than actually devoting like, like significant story space like post Enies Lobby to letting their victory resonate through the characters that we know. So I actually don't like this cover story. This one's a fun one. And I like the twist of like Caribou being made into a bit of a hero here, but then also still being, captured and all that. It's a fun one. The direction is funny. This one's boring as fuck. The poneglyph is a saving grace, I guess. Oh, this is the 500 million bear. Okay, I mixed them up. But then both of them. This one too. These are things that I think both of these, both of the from the decks of the New World, I didn't like. I think I disliked, that's my mistake though. This one, the 500 million man one, this one I disliked more. I think the first one I'm fine with. Because this wasn't, my mistake, everybody. First one I'm fine with because it's more like the Strauss haven't done anything. It's just their return is being established. So it's also just like a quick way of checking in on a lot of characters, like just giving us a quick look at like how the world, like it's not just about the Strauss, it's showing how the world, like what the characters look like post time skip and stuff like that. So I'm actually cool with that. This one I feel like should have been an event. Because this one, there's actually something like meaningful, like you've concluded a big story arc and everything like that. And this is the last time that this happens in the story until, I guess, the next bounty. But it doesn't happen after Luffy becomes a Yonko. Like, I think this should have been, actually get chapters for this reaction, right? Like Rayleigh seeing his protege, like getting his first big win in the New World. Like, because Rayleigh must have been concerned after he sends Luffy out there. Like, I'm sure he's got confidence in Luffy, but he doesn't know, is Luffy going to be able to handle shit, Like, there's just a lot of things here. All right. Stride Grand Fleet is my favorite cover story of all time. This is my favorite cover story. I love this one. Really fleshes out the Grand Fleet, and I think it just shows, it tells us so much about each. Like, I like that the Grand Fleet, we already understand the characters pretty well. Before the cover story, but this really gives us like, it has a slice of life feel. It's so many things. Slice of life feel, fleshes out the Grand Fleet, makes them feel really distinct, and helps us understand who they were as pirates, as organizations beforehand. I think they all benefit from essentially being a series of short stories that all get to a point very quickly, you know? Because each cover story is essentially a short story, but they're very long, short stories, if that makes sense, right? I think with the Grand Fleet, Oda basically had to think of like a genuinely mini narrative arc for like each one of these characters, you know? Like, it's very simple shit, but like it's a mini little story for each one of them, and I liked what we were gonna get next, and I felt like none of them dragged. The Bartolomeo plot point is a really cool one, like surprise thing in there, and I think the Bellamy final page, like I think one of Bellamy's cover story pages in that, it is from this, right? The one where he stands in front of like a bunch of flags blowing in the wind. That's one of my favorite panels in One Piece. Worst cover story of all time, the Pound one. This one is bad too because it just makes the ending of Whole Cake Island seem really dumb. The Arrival, it has significant plot in terms of like the conflicts and the fights that happen here by cover story standards, but it's still, I think the invasion of the Blackbeard pirates is really cool. I think what it shows us was the fallout from the Whole Cake Island arc is really bad, so it's mixed. And then this one is a really bad cover story too. Long discussion done. Sorry guys. All right. Went really off topic there, but you guys got me talking. You know that's dangerous. Let's get the Streamlux up to 200 real quick. All right. Keep it low key, please. Thanks for the 5. Fish fruit would technically still fit Big Mom theme as a food fruit. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. King G, thanks for the 5. Good point. Sengoku and Garp are the creators of Sword and went undercover after God Valley. Could add to Garp/Sengoku Marineford moment and their conflicting decisions. So I talk about that in tomorrow's video a little bit, if you want to wait for that to come out. And I do believe that Garp is the creator of Sword, or at least it's either him or Sengoku. The tricky thing that I talk about, well, I talk about it more in the Patreon podcast that I also just recorded right before stream started. The tricky thing about that is like, Garp is also doesn't feel like the guy that would found a movement though, to me either. But you know, we don't know the character fully. Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. I hope Robin learns all of this instead of Chopper. Learns all of what? Learns all of what instead of Chopper? How I hope Robin learns all of this instead of Chopper? Wait, bro, camera off and he's unaware? Oh, shit. Thanks, guys. Oh, so I was just a podcast. Basically. A podcast with... You guys could see the screen, right? Isaac St. Charles is raw. What does this mean? Isaac, can you expand a little bit? All right, I guess I'll just wait. The wiki was showing. All right, that's good enough. So you guys could hear me somewhat, but I'll make sure that the camera is in frame next time too. Listen to this flashback. Oh, the flashback. Yeah. I fucking forgot that Loki's actually telling people this right now. It doesn't even make sense how Loki knows all of this shit. Well, I guess with the flashbacks, it's not always telling everything that the characters themselves knew, but rather it's just Oda cutting back to basically show the reader everything that we need to know. Daniel says, like, is Loki even telling any of the flashback because the narrator took over to explain Harold, etc.? I think that... I don't think with every flashback, the narrator knows every single detail of it. Like, because if you go through a lot of the flashbacks, like, you know, like Nojiko telling Nami's flashback, but then Nojiko's aware of, like, certain specific things that Nami did on the day Arlong arrived that Nochika probably wouldn't have known. You know, it's more so the Oda's way of just like weaving in a little bit of the characters telling it to the listeners, but at the same time, Oda's now just taking the time to show us everything. King APO7 says, will Loki be stronger than Harold and Rocks? I don't think so. So I don't know how I think Loki managed to kill Harold through getting a good opportunity or something, but I definitely don't think Loki's stronger than Harold now. Harold's like Pirate King level. Yeah, I think the characters that I view as like, I don't want to go too off into a tangent of like, okay, here, let me just tell you guys something, okay? Here's how I view it. I view the characters that I view right now as like I think there's a shit ton of characters that are, okay, remove Joy Boy Emu, okay? The characters that I think are basically Pirate King level are Rocks Harold, Roger, like Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard, Garp, Prime Garp. Those 5. And then was there someone else? Yeah. Okay, I think that basically constitutes Pirate King level to me. Okay, like Rocks, Harold, Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard, Prime Garp. Okay, those characters in my mind are Pirate King level. Then there's a shit ton of characters that are, you know, like Yonko level. There's like Kaido, Big Mom, I imagine Prime Shiki, stuff like that. Okay, I think that, so there's Pirate King level, Yonko level, and then I think there's a little batch of characters that we don't know yet. That's Shanks, Dragon, Mihawk. And I think that they have a nice little range that they can fall in, which is like, I think their floor could be, maybe they're just only as strong as other Yonko, like Kaido, Big Mom, or whatever. Or maybe like Dragon is that important in the story and he's also Pirate King level. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not saying that they're, like, to me, they're nebulous. Like, I don't know. Because we haven't really gotten to the point in the story where we have to see what they can do, right? So, that's not to say that Shanks, Dragon, Mihawk are all above, you know, other Yonko. Maybe they're all just average Yonko level or whatever, right? But I'm saying, like, their ceiling, theoretically, could be higher than Yonko. It could be, like, same as the old Legends. Or they're just as strong as the Yonko, you know? I think it needs to be, to be determined. Does that make sense? All right. California Penguin says my stocks are in Dragon being Pirate King level. Yeah, I think, like, again, I just think there's like a range where I'm like, maybe Dragon's not even as strong as, like, maybe Dragon's like below Kaido. Or maybe he's as high as, like, you know, Roger, his dad, stuff like that. Miyake Goat says we haven't gotten to them because they're that strong. Yeah, it's possible. Like, Oda might have saved just the best for last. King APO7 says, if Loki is so strong, how did he get beaten by Shanks? But he's hyped so much by Gaban, who was at God Valley. I think that Loki is really strong. I think Loki is Yonko level. But I don't think he beat Harold in a straight 1v1 or anything like that. Personally. But we don't know. Alright, guys. I'm probably going to call stream right around here. So I can go eat dinner and everything. But yeah, so next Friday we'll be doing the chapter predictions. So next Friday's chapter predictions, and next Friday's chapter predictions, and this we're doing something a little. So Tuesday video comes out, and then I'm doing another simpler video on Saturday, just because this chapter gave a lot to talk about. So yeah, watch out for that. I don't normally do Saturday videos, but it's a little extra. All right, guys, thank you very, very much for tuning in. I hope you guys.